Okay. Yes, there was somebody else behind.
You are close to the box.
Just because directly behind.
Hello. Sorry. I don't want also to waste time. Veino, Jonathan. But I want to summarize based on issues raised by previous speakers is just the seriousness of our elected government as a transparent body supposed to be. We are having too secrecy. Our government is too secretive. Now, based on our transparency or the principles of the rule of law, based on the principles of democracy, government elected by the people, put in power by the people, until when is certain cases going to be for public consumption, and until when is certain cases going to continue state information and secrecy. Because if we are continue with this notion, I don't think that we are going to achieve anything, because failure of government allows civil society to take part in democracy of issues affecting people who are the very same people elected government into power. I don't think that we are going to achieve anything. We are going, if there is no political will from government, we are going to have many forums and many of these type of activities. If government itself is not willing, the political will, if it is not there, I want to be correctly quoted. If government is always having two types of tackling approach towards corruption, there are certain corruption cases in the case of Namibia, which you are now addressing, and there are certain cases which are for government consumption only. And we can mention a lot. I don't want to go in detail. Thank you for the floor.
Thank you. We have somebody behind, right across.
Thank you. My name is John Makuta. I just want to ask a question to the presenter. How do you reconcile the right to access to information with certain libel laws that are still on our law books? For example, we currently have a big case going on whereby one of the former editors and the reporter or whatever is currently being sued for defamation. So how does the right to information and access to information in particular, how can you reconcile, as I said, the two?
Okay, we'll take one final comment from here and then call on Henry. There was a hand up here. Yes, please.
Morning, my name is Richard Kaimbi. I just want to understand something, because we are talking about here access to information, and I'm hearing something about denial to information. What kind of information are we talking about? Because as far as I am concerned, as a Namibian Let me take in the area of the journalist. When the journalists are calling you to give some certain information, so you are free to give information, and what type of information, and we talk about disclose of information, what kind of information you must give, and what type of information you must not give also. So I just want to understand what type of information are we talking about?
So to be clear, you are asking what kind of information can be denied legitimately?
Yes.
Okay. So would ask Henry to respond to the comments and questions so far. We'll see how much time we have afterwards and then see if we can take some more. So Henry.
Okay, thanks. Thanks so much. I think I want to begin by using parts of the PS response. That is an issue of historical reality, that we were denied information. If that is true, have we just taken up those instruments of those who denied us information and kept them in the way, as perhaps as a way of ensuring we provide information to citizens? And that begins to answer the question Jen raises about Official Secrets Act. The UK's Official Secrets Act is about 100 years today. And that came to most parts of the other world as when the UK was that empire. We borrowed as much from India. If you look at the parent documents from UK and India, they've been amended and repealed several times. But it's only in independent sub-Saharan Africa where the Official Secrets Acts have been kept intact the way they were before independence. What does that tell us? The historical reality hasn't dawned on us. So that is the starting point. Are we engaging in a campaign towards this? I know that Commissioner Pansy might not have talked about all the endeavors she's taking. I think she focused more on the activities she's doing with relation to right to information. She's also leading a campaign to decriminalize free expression on the continent. And then she's held a number of meetings, one bigger meeting being on the margins of the World Press Freedom Day in Tunis. So there is an effort, and in the Southern Africa, I think each of the teams in the countries need to start a campaign themselves. They can then be supported. The campaign cannot be started by Pansy. It can only be supported. So that is as far as the issue of Official Secrets Act lie. But the truth is, as they are, most of those acts as kept are in contradiction of constitutional provisions of most of our countries. And perhaps for people who are interested in change, this is the time to test those Official Secrets Acts using constitutional provisions. So let's use the Namibian Constitution and test, isn't this act or part of it still in contradiction of the Constitution? And that would begin to make a difference. In terms of implementation, I think Joseph, Energy FM, asking what is the level of implementation? Colleagues from South Africa would tell you that the right to information implementation has created a lot of change. You've seen too many cases where the government is being asked on how it has allocated resources. I think today in the morning, I was watching news and I saw a clip that one region where the promise for public services has not happened for 10 years, yet resources have continued to be expended. The municipality is demonstrating. Why? Because people are getting to know that you spend money on public for provision of public toilets, but there are no toilets. So that begins to ask, how do we explain this? And that is a clear sign of implementation. We've seen processes of budget reallocation even where we didn't have as much of the law. In Uganda, which is one of the countries that have passed the law, there used to be a school education transfer fund. And when a study was done, it found that nearly 85% of the resources never reached the schools. But when people said, just make it clear how much money was supposed to reach this school, and tell the parents and everybody there, this is the amount that was allocated to your school, you will begin to see people putting the administration to pressure. And the administration said nearly 60% remains in Kampala because it never reaches us. So what reaches us is what we also use. And that changed the dynamics because they began to open bank accounts straight to schools where 100% allocation would reach the school first and then deal with the mismanagement there. So there've been some effort, and I think Edet, colleague Malcolm from Liberia and others would be talking about the steps that have been taken and that are already showing a difference. In terms of how to reconcile RTI and libel laws, I think we must understand that when we talk about right to information, it's not a blanket check for you to destroy other people's reputations without due reason. People might destroy their own reputations if they are politicians and they do something wrong. By reporting on it, you've not gone against any known levels. But if you unduly write information that cannot be defended, I think libel laws are necessary. The only problem we have is when you have criminal defamation on the books. But if I destroyed your reputation and you think in the rights of right-thinking Namibians, you have a reputation to keep, take me to court through a civil process. Let's see what reputation you had and how much it was, and if I can be able to pay. So let's, as journalists and other people working on this, understand that this is not a blanket check for you to just trample on other people's rights, because protection of other people's rights is a legitimate protection that we also need to consider when we are working on right to information. Richard asks about understanding what information. I think the starting point is to think through proactive disclosure where all information is made public except that information that, if released, would cause substantial harm to the interest that is to be protected. And we have in mind here issues of international relations, which is still a nebulous concept, but needs to be defined more into what exactly do we mean. We have issues on national security, and here national security does not mean anything that has to do with police or military. There must be some specific issues. For instance, information that has issues to do with military tactics or strategy or operations where there are hostilities. Intelligence relating to the defense of the state, the detection, prevention, and suppression of subversive activities, methods or scientific or technical equipment for collecting and handling such information, identity of confidential sources. Within this, what are the capabilities and vulnerabilities of the state in terms of their security? This is information that would not readily be given because of national security reasons. But where a country gets involved, there is a likelihood that there will be debate on national security. So this does not in itself mean there will be no debate on national security. For instance, I think in East Africa now, we are having a debate over the helicopters, Uganda helicopters that crashed in Kenya. We are having discussions on Kenya's capability to mount the war against Al-Shabaab. Nobody knows for how long we are going to fight. And Parliament is being asked, how long are we going to be in this war? How much money does it need? Which other sectors are going to suffer? Meaning that there is discussion on national security. But you will not be asking the Kenya Defense Forces, where are you going to attack Kisimayu from? They will not tell you, even if you are a right to information advocate. So we need to clearly think through that. So there are those permissible exemptions, and I've talked about issues of national security, international relations, economic interests, and others. And it is those that should inform official secrets laws, that anything that does not stand within that strict definition of the exemptions need not be protected by the Official Secrets Act. So we may not have a process where we will do away with all Official Secrets Act. That is one way to take legally, that you do away with them and come up with provision, with a law that substantively points out what areas of information are protected. Other people are saying we don't need all those. We just need one comprehensive RTI law which has clear exemptions. Which of those areas are protected, that information would not readily be availed. And most of us, those usual suspects, go by that understanding that we would like a comprehensive RTI law with clear exemptions that meet these international standards, and therefore the Official Secrets Act will no longer serve any purpose. I hope Edith and Malcolm and others can shed light on the implementation of the laws in specific countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry, for traversing the list of comments and questions. I will be having a presentation tomorrow where I'll be sharing the Nigerian experience, and I don't want to make my presentation twice. So I would refrain from going into that in detail at the moment. What I would just say is that the Nigerian law is just about 16 months old. Most of what we focused on has been public enlightenment about the existence of the law, the content of the law, and how to use it. But the mere existence of the law has changed the power dynamics in Nigeria. People now largely know that they have a right. They have a right to ask for information from public institutions, including very powerful public institutions that traditionally nobody would dare approach. And it's a very vibrant debate that is going on, and I think that ultimately we're going to be better for it. Nigeria has a very bad reputation globally around corruption and a lot of other issues. Some of it is contrived, some of it is true, but this is one instrument that can help us respond very effectively to that challenge that Nigeria faces. And I would like to do my presentation tomorrow, if you don't mind. Hopefully you'll be here tomorrow to listen and ask any additional question you might have. I think we still have a few minutes. We could still take one or two comments or questions. You have a question? Okay, you asked a question which I think would perhaps be best answered by a Namibian government official. Maybe the permanent secretary might want to respond, but if you could clarify what your issue is, so we'll see who takes it. The mic is there with you.
Yeah. Sorry. Too near the sound box. Yeah, it's me again. The thing is, the reality is, Veino Jonathan. Veino Jonathan. Shalom Juba. What I would like to remind the presenter that I feel personally that however the presenter is tried by all means to satisfy our questions, I was not satisfied in certain seconds. To be honest, I'm honest and frank. Because if I can cover a certain part where the presenter responds as towards the southern countries to take action on their own based on especially corruption. And if we have to take Africa and we come to the case of Namibia specifically, to be specific, not to dwell on many issues as African countries, we are not left out when it comes to political history. Namibians are too vulnerable towards the system where we find ourselves as we seek political refuge to hide or to camouflage or to get a shield over ourselves based on our political history. What we have suffered through the previous regime in Namibia make us now more vulnerable, not even to dare to point to be strict on our own elected government, because it seems that now we become traitors towards our own government because of our political history. That is the part which I personally feel that the presenter did not really cover. It did not satisfy my need.
Okay, thank you very much. It sounded more like a comment to me than a question, but perhaps we'll give Henry another shot to see if he can satisfy you. You sound like a difficult man to satisfy, but Henry will do his best. Is there any other comment or question? Okay, please pass on the microphone.
Okay, just want to say good day to every participant here. I'm Mr. James Hansen. I'm from Kalkrand. I was the guy that was working with wooden cross. The cause for my working was because it was 2 years that I'm unemployed and I'm just roaming in the dusty streets of our local village. And one question I want to ask it is, my English is not that good, but just listen to my spirit. How possible is it that a guy that is roaming in the dusty streets of a village is knowing the information that is in the government office? And while the persons that are working with the information in the government office is reluctant to report any inconvenience or corruption in government office to the relevant bodies that is fighting corruption, that is the ACC. So having in mind, I like what my brother was talking. I like people that are talking straight. We must not fear, we only fear God. I just want to give you a story today. Yeah, a short one. You see what is taking place here in Namibia. I will tell you just in a story, in parables. Jesus was talking in parables. We are talking about problems in our country, and the fingers are pointed only those that are in the streets. We are only pointing fingers to prostitutes that are in the streets, that are giving our government problems. But allow me to use this word. I'm not trying to defame somebody. I will not mention names. But the biggest prostitutes in our country, I will today tell you, is politics, is the one woman. And the other woman is law firms. let me finish off. Let me finish off. So, and the man whom they are sleeping with is greed. And greed is pregnating these two women, and they are giving birth to corruption. And the Anti-Corruption Commission, you can see them as a doctor in a maternity ward, that is catching the babies. Now politics is laying on one bed, that woman, and the other one, the law firm, is laying on one bed. They are all giving birth to the babies. But the order from the government to the doctor, who is the ACC, has been given instruction to detect any virus that is in the baby and to kill it immediately. But now, when the ACC starts to do its job to try to kill the baby, immediately women politics and women law firm say the Constitution protects me. So now also the media, I like the media because without the media we can do nothing. Now the media, they are also interested about these births, and they are trying to cover now. Now politics and women politics and women law firm, they have been pregnated by greed, they are rich. Now the media is also dragged to the courts. Now where are we going? People, one thing I want to say is, it is not my job. I'm unemployed. The people that have been voted into power, it is their jobs. We must not talk, we must walk. That's why I walk the talk 200 kilometers to Windhoek. Let us not preach, let us practice by preaching. Let us preach by practicing. Because our leaders, they are misleading, and the most criminals, they are very professional. Most of the criminals is, let me emphasize on what the director of ACC was yesterday night said in the gala dinner. The problem we think outside, but it is in the offices. The people that wants to have more and more. So people, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much for the interesting story. I would now ask Henry for any final comments he may have before we end this session. Henry?
I thank the working young man for having ably answered Jonathan, and at least Jonathan has shown some satisfaction by cheering. But I want to point out that right to information and rule of law is an emancipating tool that Namibians can still use. I think the law is bigger than those who hold public office. It is just to what extent we test it. And it is to what extent we utilize it, so that it helps to also inform us who should we elect next time. I think it's not the right thing for citizens to find themselves that hopeless and begin sometimes comparing themselves or saying we would be better if we had not become independent. I hold meetings in some villages, and old men would tell us, oh, we were far better during colonialism. This independent thing does not work for us. And that is how sad it is for freedom fighters, that if you're to be compared with the colonizer, who outrightly did not pretend that they were doing anything for the people. They were very clear that they were doing for themselves. How come you are now being compared? I think that's the big question that all governments in the region ought to be asked. And what must you begin to do so that your own citizens, the people who had confidence and elected you, do not seem this hopeless? I think it's a bigger question than what a session